You're listening to the Talon Talk podcast on Talon Television.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's installment of the Talon Sports Talk podcast. I'm Austin Speaker.
I'm Mitch Courtney.
And I'm Jaden Sarablo.
We have so much to talk about, but first, we obviously got to get to the World Series. Real quick, before we really dive into the World Series, let's get all the GOAT comments out of the way. Anthony Rizzo's the new GOAT. This is the GOAT podcast of the season so far.
No more GOAT puns today, and that's a good thing because I don't feel like talking about them. I want to talk about Bartman, though.
Okay.
This is a guy that was crucified by that fan base after we all know what happened. He knocks the foul ball out of reach from Moises Alou.
Which, if I may add, that ball was already out of reach. Alou was not getting that ball.
Yeah. There's a controversy. I don't think that he would have even made the play, but the thing that aggravates me now is that Cubs fans want Bartman to be the head of the parade, and they want to forgive Bartman. Bartman doesn't need their forgiveness. What they need to do is apologize to him, and if I'm Steve Bartman, I'm not taking part in any of that because of the way they treated me the last 13 years.
More or less, Cub fans ruined Steve Bartman's life. I don't think that's a fair comment.
Nobody even knows if his name is still Steve Bartman. This guy basically went into bomb shelter hiding because of the team and its fan base, and it's not fair to him.
There were so many tweets last night about him, coming out of his bomb shelter with enough food to prepare for a zombie apocalypse. Bartman is the new face of the franchise. Like you said, new face of the franchise. The curse is over. The Bartman curse is over. The GOAT curse is over.
Right.
And it's like, wow, to put a hex on one person.
And let's just face the music here. Bartman wasn't even the reason they lost that game. Alex Gonzalez made an error in the same inning. So if Gonzalez doesn't make that error, nobody even knows who Steve Bartman is.
Also, they had to go out and win game. You still got a Game 7 to play.
Right.
That was Game 6 when it happened.
Yep.
Oh, boy. That was just... Yeah, but 108 years just washed away. Can you say that it's washed away? Can you say that it's water under the bridge now? Can you say that the Cubs can get past this and move forward?
For now you can, but how long are we going to wait until we have a storyline where it says you won one? Is it going to be another 108 years? Because I don't see it happening with Epstein. He's put together a good team there, so they'll be competitive. But if they don't win one for a while, you might see that coming up again.
Yeah, I see another championship coming back to the Chicago Cubs within the next 5 years. This team's just way too loaded not to win a World Series. Mm-hmm. But like you were saying, I don't think you can erase that 108 years. I think that's going to be stapled into baseball history forever. So, like you said, erasing it, I don't think it's being erased.
Right. Yeah, you can't really erase that because, like you said, it is stapled into baseball history, and that's going to be a part of this team. This is going to be one of the most historic teams ever. 100 wins. You see a team every couple years or so win 100 games. The Cardinals did it last year. This year, the Cubs did it. Some teams have won 110 games in a season. The Yankees have done that before in 1998. But with this team being as dominant as they were all season, their pitching staff being as great as they were, Arrieta having the 14 months of a lifetime, John Lester having a Cy Young year, Kyle Hendricks, NL ERA leader, MLB ERA leader. It's just so historic with 108 years. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez with that postseason. Just everything, all the pieces came together, and like you guys said, it was all because of Theo Epstein.
Right. It's a nice story that they won the World Series, but as I was watching last night, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I found myself pulling for the Indians, mainly because Chicago has seen successes in other sports. You have the Bears, you have the Bulls, the Blackhawks, who are always in contention. So if you're just a Cubs fan, I felt a little bad for you. It's 108 years. But if you're a Chicago sports fan, you see titles pretty regularly.
Yep. And, I was in the same boat as you. I was seeing myself rooting for the Indians. I don't really know why, but now that it's over and the Cubs did win, I'm pretty happy. It's a pretty cool thing to experience as sports fans. Like, this is really big history. Mm-hmm. We literally witnessed maybe one of the biggest baseball games in the history of MLB.
Mm-hmm. And the way it ended there, it was probably top 5 World Series of all time, not just because of the storyline, but because of the way it ended, with Rajai Davis tying it with a 2-run shot, and then the rain delay, and everybody is wondering if they're going to be able to stay up to see the end of it, and then the Cubs scoring 2 runs in the 10th. So
Yeah, there was not a shot I was falling asleep during that. Probably the best World Series I've ever seen in my short lifetime. The only game I could compare this one to is 2003 ALCS Game 7, the Aaron Boone game off of Tim Wakefield. This is the only comparable game that I have for that. But yeah, like you said, Raji Davis, I'm thinking it's 8-6. I know the tying runs at the plate, but Davis doesn't have home run power. You got to roll this Chapman for another 4 outs. Let's see what happens. And then, oh boy,
and
game.
If you really take a look at it, Davis is a guy who's 36 years old and probably wouldn't be in the lineup if Brantley doesn't go down earlier this season. So
Not a chance.
just all these storylines coming together to make the best World Series that I've ever seen.
And before the game started, it was bottom of the first, and Roger Davis was coming to lead up that inning, and they showed his stat line, which was atrocious in the postseason. And I'm like, what's this guy doing? Roger Davis isn't going to do anything today. And then you see they're down 8-6, and he hits that 2-run homer to tie it. And then in the 10th, they had a clutch single, too, to keep them alive. And obviously, they didn't go on to win, but it was a great performance by Roger Davis.
That's correct, and that single put him on. In 8-7, he got a runner on first, and Davis is the American League stolen base leader.
Yep. Right.
So you got to think he's going to be on second base. Now another single brings him home, and now it's like, oh my God, we got a tie game going at the 11th. What is going on? But to just cap off what was an amazing World Series game, I would love to talk about what could have been. Now, obviously, Joe Madden was celebrated. He's a great manager. He's got a great track record. Him and Terry Francona are similar in so many ways. So many people glorify Theo Epstein, and deservingly so. He's going to be a Hall of Fame general manager. But what could have happened if the Cubs lost? What kind of questions would Joe Madden have to face if the Cubs lost that game?
And this is what Mitch has been waiting a long time for, is to really roast Joe Madden on his coaching performance last night.
Yeah, I think Madden is a good manager. I'm not going to dispute that, but there were definitely some times where everybody watching was wondering what the hell was going on. Why do you have Aroldis Chapman coming in after he's thrown 63 pitches in the previous 3 games?
97 pitches in 72 hours for a closer.
Right. And Chapman is a guy who, and you heard it on the broadcast, A-Rod said it as a former teammate of Chapman. Chapman's a guy who gets in a rhythm. He's only used to pitching 12 to 15 pitches at a time. And it really did bring out the truth serum in Madden. He didn't trust any of his other relievers who had been giving him good innings this entire season. You can't do that. And then to have Baez bunt with 2 strikes in the World Series, Game 7 of the World Series, you can't afford to give away outs like that, and he's lucky it didn't come back to bite him.
And, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's lucky it didn't come back to bite him, but at the end of the day, those are bad mistakes. You can't leave Aroldis Chapman out there that long. He literally just left him out to dry, and it showed, and he should have just gone to the bullpen that's proved to be quality in this postseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned that bullpen. Before the game, they said Lester's available, Arrieta's available, Lackey's available. I love how he was like, he didn't come out and say it, but you're right, because he really only trusted Lester and Chapman. And he was so quick to pull that trigger. It's almost like he had that scripted. He was ready to go to those guys. I don't see anything wrong with Pedro Strop. When he's throwing that changeup, he's good. Travis Wood is a good lefty reliever who can give you innings. So Mike Montgomery, he's come into postseason games and pitched well. I don't understand why he lost so much trust, but like you said, Jane, you can't overwork Chapman like the way he did. And to go back to Baez, he's hit a home run earlier in the game. He's got a lot of pop in his back. He can easily find a pitch and drive it, line drive, fly ball. He's that kind of hitter. He's got a great swing. I don't understand that. I don't understand that move at all to safety squeeze. Not even suicide squeeze, a safety squeeze with 2 strikes. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I just wanted to touch on Mike Montgomery, the Cubs pitcher who closed things out last night. He had no saves in 9 seasons prior to last night. Not in the major leagues, not in the minors, until he gets his first save in the biggest game in MLB history.
That's exactly why I think it's a mistake to bring Chapman on so early, because he was on short rest. He had been throwing a ton of pitches compared to what he normally throws. And then you bring in Lester, and you have a guy like Arrieta available, or even John Lackey. I'm not sure if you want to go to Lackey in a situation like that, but a good lefty there.
Rich Hill quality.
Yeah, I mean, around that, but you know what I mean? You can't bring in a guy like Chapman who's been so overworked and expect him to give you 3 innings when you have Arrieta, who's been Cy Young caliber the last couple of seasons. So Madden's lucky that he came away with the victory, because it might have been 108 years, and then Madden's on the hot seat, even for taking his team to the World Series.
I couldn't imagine if the Cubs were to have blown that game, and Madden did make a couple questionable managerial moves, and then I just wouldn't be able to imagine that press conference room afterwards. Now it's 109 years, and now you just don't know if you're ever going to be there again. But I do think that this does kind of ease the tension because it is such a young team, and those guys do have a lot of swagger and a lot of confidence in themselves. So the fact that the curse is kind of broken, so to speak, now that's not hanging over your heads. Now when you get into a pressure situation like that, you're not thinking of the past 108 years. Yeah. You're not thinking, here we go again. You're not thinking of that black cat running across the on-deck circle.
It's not the Buffalo Bills mentality where you get behind and you say, oh, no, what have we done? This is going to be bad, and it's going to bring us down for another 100 years. It's where the Cubs can be on the offensive now. They can say, we have a really good young team. We might even want to go out in free agency and sign somebody else and make this team even better than it already is.
Okay. I agree with that. It's just you don't understand. You don't know how, if you're ever going to get there again. You just don't know. There are Hall of Famers who have never played in the World Series.
Right.
They've never made it that far. And it's incredible to watch this team, the way they grow, the way they grew, the way they matured, and everything. And I feel bad. I do feel bad for Cleveland as well because you just don't know if a guy like Francisco Lindor or Jason Kipnis, you don't know if they're going to get there again. Right. But they got Michael Brantley coming back next year. I think Cleveland's going to be around for a long time. I think Chicago's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, I think Cleveland is a very good young team. It's just this year felt like they just had the right guys playing together. It wasn't that they had the best 25 guys on the roster. They all played together. It really did feel like a team, and that's hard to accomplish in the majors, especially with no salary cap and free agency the way it is.
It seemed like they just had all the right pieces for this one World Series run, kind of like they brought in Mike Napoli for a year, who made a huge impact, and just like Rajay Davis, just players you wouldn't expect to make big impacts did, and unfortunately they lost that 3-1 lead.
Yeah, Mitch, if I can quote you last night, one of your tweets last night was, Madden's just getting by on talent at this point. And I think that was kind of the theme of this World Series. Madden's a good manager. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but obviously his decisions were questionable. You got guys, an MVP candidate like Bryant. You got Cy Young candidates like Lester and Hendricks. You got the best closer in the game in Aroldis Chapman. You got guys like Baez who can just mash. Zobrist, who's just a clutch hitter. You have so many great pieces, whereas Francona, he's got a good team. He's got a great young team. But he's got to do a lot of managerial, instinctual moves to keep the Indians where they're going. Francona managed the bullpen better than anyone I've ever seen do it in the last 10 years, this whole postseason. And I do think that the Cubs did get by on Tan a little bit, while Cleveland, like you said, Jaden, has just all the right pieces working for them at the same time.
Yeah, I think Francona is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and there's no doubt about it. That guy has had success at every level. He's come up with the Red Sox. He won 2 World Series with them, and he was undefeated in the World Series before this year. Madden's a guy that's probably a Hall of Fame manager because he did have a few decent years with the Rays, took them to a World Series, and then now wins it with the Cubs, but the decisions last night maybe going to put a little doubt in the voters' heads.
But at the end of the day, he's the manager that brought that World Series back to Chicago. Right. That might get you to Hall of Fame all on its own, to be honest with you. And then what he did with Tampa Bay, he made it to the World Series there but didn't win. But I think I'd see Joe Madden as a Hall of Fame manager.
I agree with that. Now, can we also talk about another huge topic last night? That was Grandpa Rossi coming in. Wilson Contreras. He's a good young kid, great young prospect, good catcher behind the plate. Had a nice double earlier on in the game to the driving run. But then David Ross comes in to when John Lester come out of the bullpen. So David Ross has to go behind the plate. First at bat, crushes one dead center just over the outstretched glove of Rajay Davis. You can't write a script like that, especially a guy who's going to retire. It's just what a way to go out.
Yeah, we're going to miss David Ross in the LB for sure. I mean, we've seen him win championships in Boston alongside John Lester, and John Lester goes to Chicago, David Ross follows. And like you said, you can't write a better script than that. He's the oldest guy to home run in a World Series game, which will lead us to our great trivia question later. But yeah, it's not going to be fun without Grandpa Ross in the LB anymore.
I think you have to give a lot of credit to David Ross, and not just with the home run, because that's a super young team, and Ross is a guy who's been around. He's played for a lot of teams. He's seen pretty much everything there is to see in the majors, and I wouldn't be shocked if you talked to a few young players on that team if they said David Ross is the reason we're here. He's the glue that held the young pieces together in Chicago.
It's kind of like that veteran presence, that leader presence. He's a good ball. He might not play every day, but he's just a good ball player. He's quiet and he's very professional. He's all about business, but he has fun in the clubhouse. He keeps the young kids loose, but he also knows that when it's time to work, it's time to work. Thank you, Jaden, for that segue to my trivia question. As we're going to start off with an easy one. I got two today. The first one, I heard you guys kind of talk about it earlier before the podcast, so just think back to that. Javier Baez became the second youngest player to hit a home run in a World Series Game 7. Behind who?
Jaden and I think that we have the answer on this. We want to bring Kenny in here. Kenny had a guess. I don't think it's correct, but it was a good guess.
Well, I heard the question and I thought World Series was postseason, so I said Raul Ibanez.
Then me and Mitch went to the Yankee great and Mickey Mantle
That is correct.
at the age of, was it 20?
Nah, he was a tick over 22.
Okay.
And Baez is 22 right now, but he's a tick under 23. So
Oh,
that's-
youngest, not oldest. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Oh yeah. Come on, man. Where
Sorry, I'm
listening
tired.
to?
I had an 8 a.m. test. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah. Well, that's why Kenny Stable's here for all you remembering as our NBA correspondent. But he also dabbles with baseball. He knows what he's talking about for the most part.
Just-
your
Can't-
guess.
Just doesn't know
Just
the difference
mixing
between-
up youngest and oldest.
Right, just doesn't know the
That's
difference
okay.
So
between
your youngest guess though was
Alfonso Soriano.
So that's a good guess. Soriano's a guy that had a lot of success in
Yeah.
pinstripes.
That's correct.
I'm thinking 2001, but
So-
I think
So David Ross, as we mentioned earlier, became the oldest player ever to hit a home run in a World Series Game 7. David Ross was 39 years old, 228 days when he did it. He surpassed this player who was 39 years old, 225 days old when he hit a home run in World Series Game 7.
This is tough.
My first guess or thought in my head before you said it wasn't in the 2000s, I flashed to Julio Franco just because
Same.
he played
Yep.
until he was 49.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I know the answer, and he's a Pirate. Willie Stargell.
Oh, is that?
They were talking about him last night on the broadcast a lot, and I
yeah.
remember stories of my grandpa telling me how good this guy was at such an old age. And we brought it up last night again. I got a text and I said, David Ross just hit a home run, and my grandpa sent back, oh, is Willie Stargell playing in the game too? So it gave me an idea, but I wasn't 100% sure on it.
Oh, you are 100% correct. It was Willie Stargell in 1979 with the We Are Family Pirates. That's Hall of Famer. 2 Hall of Famers in this series of trivia questions, and that's just great company for Javier Baez with his young career, with what he's doing with the bat and defensively with Chicago, and obviously David Ross is. I mean, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but that was just a great story. So to end the World Series segment of this, I just want to say that of the 4 of us in here, I was the only one who said the Cubs were going to win, and I am wearing a Cubs hat in the studio right now. So
He did. Props to you on that one. Also, you said in 6.
Sorry.
You got it.
Sorry.
Hey, there were a few
So
opportunities in that Game 7 where it could have gone either way.
that's true.
Big fact. But
That's very true.
Joe Madden tried to hand it to Cleveland, so we'll see. We'll see what he does with that team.
Can I just say one last thing?
Go ahead, Bob.
Why didn't Chapman at least throw one off-speed pitch before
I think
before
I
Davis?
saw one, and I thought it was a mistake because I saw Chapman, and then I saw the speed next to it, and it said 85 miles an hour, which is unlike Chapman. Even when he's throwing off speed, his slider tops out at about 88, 89.
Right.
You could tell that he was beat up, and the funny part about that was that we saw fastballs last night that were 98.
Oh yeah,
and people were
that's
saying,
his changeup.
and people were saying, "What's wrong with Chapman? He just threw a 98 mile an hour fastball."
Yeah, that's essentially his tired changeup. But can we just talk about Rajay Davis for a second? He was out in front on a 101 mile an hour fastball. If that's not cheating, I don't know what is.
But that's the type of hitter that Rajay Davis is. He loves left-handers and he loves heat.
Oh, he loves it.
And you put one right there for him, he's gonna turn on it and put
Yeah.
it to a left
He
field
was
wall.
out in front on 101. I turned to my suite mates. I'm like, he almost pulled that foul. It was 101 miles an hour. Like, wow.
Justin Verlander actually called that home run on Twitter. He's like, watch out for Rajay Davis. He really likes those left-handers with heat. And then later on, Rajay goes yard.
So, and that pitch path, along with that swing path, Rajay Davis has such a quick punching swing. He uses Aroldis Chapman's power to Davis's advantage. He lets the
Right.
he lets the velocity of the pitch do all the work for him. So all he had to do was just barrel it up and just let it go.
Yeah, when you're throwing that hard, you really don't need to swing full. The ball is going to carry by itself, and that's just another thing. You said that Verlander called it on Twitter, but if Justin Verlander can see that it's a poor matchup for the Cubs, why can't Joe Madden see that? That's another thing that we could say about Joe Madden. So
Right.
he's got to pick up his game if he wants to repeat with the Cubs.
And like you mentioned before, Chapman was so beat up that I think it was possible for him to square it up. You throw a low one in at 103, 104 like he normally does, all of a sudden you're jamming him, and it's going to be a lazy pop out to short off the handle of the bat. But the fact that it did slow down to 101 or 100, whatever, he was able to just time it a little better. And I mean, he was seeing 98 the whole time, and now he was able to time him up. All of a sudden, it looks a lot less scary.
Right, and we've all seen Chapman on good rest. You saw him at the All-Star game 2 years ago, striking out the side and routinely hitting 104 and 105. So it was just incredibly impressive. And then to see that drop off, you could tell that his arm just wasn't where it needed to be for last night's game.
And like I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to welcome back our friend Kenny Stables, our NBA correspondent.
How's it
Kenny?
going? Live from the Palace at Auburn Hills once again.
If whatever you say, bud. Anyway, so we are gonna move on to the NBA here. Another big story for last night was the Thunder rolling
Right.
the Thunder's rolling at 3-0, going against the Los Angeles Clippers, who are also 3-0, and now the Thunder come away with the win. They're undefeated to start the season, Kenny. What are you seeing from them?
Well, their usage rate for Westbrook is through the roof. It's almost comparable. It's not nearly as extraordinary as Anthony Davis is for the Pelicans right now, who's literally the entire team, and they're still 0-4. But that's another story. Russell Westbrook has some pieces around him in Steven Adams. Allen Roberson's having a really good year so far. They unloaded some contracts and some trades, too, in the past few off seasons. They're a little younger, I think, right now, too, as well. The question is, they're getting away with using Westbrook a lot now early on. But once a game 20, 25, 30 hits and teams start to get the scouting report like, hey, this is what they're doing with Westbrook. Pick and rolls every time, ISOs here and there. He's getting the ball obviously he's the point guard, but he's looking to score every possession. And how long can that keep up realistically?
And I really liked what you were saying about the Thunder adding players. I mean, in this past 3-4 days, they added Oladipo, extension. Steven Adams, 4 years, 100-something million, which
Right.
is just mind-blowing.
Unloading
Yeah, can I just ask you that? I mean, Steven Adams is a good center. I don't know if I would call him elite, but he's very good.
Right.
Is he worth $100 million? And is Victor Oladipo worth $84 million over 4 years?
Well, think about it. The cap's rising, or the cap rose, so contracts look inflated. I mean, Tyler Johnson got an extraordinary amount from the Miami Heat, and he's a good sixth man, but he's no one I'd pay, $20-25 million a year for to score me 25 a game or anything like that. He's a great player, but I don't know if he's worth that money. With the inflation in the NBA, with the salary cap, maybe. Time will tell with his performance, but there's been a lot of controversy with these contracts being given out to all these players. I think Al Jefferson got one as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Right,
But-
and Timofey Mozgov got upwards of $50 million from
Yeah.
the Lakers. So that's a guy who's a reserve center last year
He's
for
a
the Cavs.
decent starting center, but he's on a good
Right.
team. He's a backup. Yeah, absolutely.
And just want to switch paces here, and we're going to talk about my Knicks again for a little
Okay.
bit. Not
Right.
looking so hot. I made a mistake last night, called Jeff Hornacek Kurt Rambis.
Well,
But Hornacek, I don't know what he's doing with this team. They benched Noah. He shot an awful
right.
air ball.
Oh,
the other
no, I
day.
saw
Just-
that. That's Shaq into full quality. Right
Just-
watching Noah's shot makes me laugh at
Right.
how ugly it is because I'm not a big fan of him.
And Derrick Rose has been good, but this is
Mm-hmm.
a team that they still haven't realized that Porzingis is the best player on the team.
I do want to ask you a question here. I kind of have on my sheet here. Are the Knicks kind of going through growing pains? Are they just learning how to play together, or do you, Mitch and Kenny, do you guys think that they are just washed up? Melo's old. Noah's old. Rose is not the
I don't-
MVP we've seen in years past.
I don't think Melo's old. He's still in his prime. I think he's very overrated. He's not going to win you a championship or anything. He needs pieces around him. He's not LeBron. Obviously, no one's LeBron, but you know what I mean by that.
Right.
And Melo's going to need 2 or 3 really good complementary pieces to even have a chance of going to the conference finals. And with this team, Jeff Hornacek coaches who have played their position tend to focus on that position. So Jeff Hornacek, longtime shooting guard for the Utah Jazz back in the 90s, early 2000s, I'm sure he loves to utilize Derrick Rose in ways that he can, but I like those coaches like Mike D'Antoni, Tom Thibodeau, like Eric Spoelstra, even Greg Popovich, guys who know how to use different role players in different positions and incorporate them to one system, and it works. It's shown in their game, and I just don't know what Jeff Hornacek's looking to do there. I mean, he's running some good plays. Porzingis coming off a screen, decoying Carmelo Anthony and drawing the defense off, so Porzingis gets open, but like I said, it's early on in the season, but the Knicks, they have potential. They're definitely a playoff team, but they can do much more with that roster.
You mentioned Melo definitely needs some pieces around him, and Mitch, do you think Derrick Rose is that piece, or are we more leaning on Kristaps Porzingis to really show up and do what he did last year?
Well, I think Derrick Rose is part of it. You need a point guard that can run
course.
that offense,
Right.
but Porzingis is a star in the making, and the Knicks need to realize it before it's too late. I think the biggest issue with the Knicks is that James Dolan got a little trade happy and traded away what seemed like every first-round pick for the next 10 years. And you can't build a team if you don't have any draft picks. And like you said, Melo's a guy that needs pieces around him. Where are you going to find those pieces? Are you going to overpay in free agency?
Yeah, of course.
Or trade for guys like Derrick Rose who have other issues like injuries? I don't know. I think Carmelo is a very good player. I do agree that he's overrated. He might be the best pure scorer in the NBA.
Oh, one-on-one scoring, I'll take him over most players.
But
maybe not Durant, but it's a toss-up between those two.
defensively, they're abysmal.
Yeah.
They thought Joakim Noah was going to be that piece that maybe tied the defense together. But right now, I would rather have Robin Lopez back because he was the rim protector that they needed.
I was just about to mention that Noah is a better center than Robin Lopez, but Lopez is better at bodying up down low.
Right.
I think that's the one thing he excels in is bodying up, boxing out, letting other people come in for rebounds. Noah's the better player, no question. But if I want someone to box out a big center like Cousins, I'd rather have Robin Lopez. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and with Porzingis, we'll just switch back to him real quick. I
Yeah.
think the only guy from that draft that's really outplaying him is Towns, and Towns is a guy that's outplaying pretty much everybody in the NBA right now.
And they're two similar players. They're both 6'10 and over. Porzingis is 7'1", if you can believe that. He's measured at 7'1" his rookie year. But they're both 6'10 or 7'1". They're both over 6'10", and they both handle it really well. They're both perimeter threats as well as post threats. They're just pure scorers in their own right. I mean, I think going back to the Knicks here, their make-or-break season this year is going to depend on Porzingis' usage. I think you got to utilize a guy like him correctly in an offense to ease Melo and ease Rose off the ball a little bit. I mean, you have to. You have to utilize that.
Yeah, I was one of the people that was sort of against Carmelo re-signing in New York because I knew that if you allocate the resources, that much money into one guy who can't do it all by himself,
Right.
you can't really justify it when you don't have any draft picks because you don't have any other pieces that are cheap enough to build a team around him.
Exactly. Melo's a two-dimensional player. He's decent at getting assists, but he's a scorer in his own right. He's not a great defender. I mean, there's only so much you can do with him in terms of leading a team. Well, only so much he can do with leading a team to the conference finals. Like we mentioned,
Right.
Rose and Porzingis need to have some balanced distribution away from Melo in order for them to be a balanced team.
Now, if we hit the rewind button and it was 6 years ago and Derrick Rose was playing at an MVP level, this would be a Knicks team that would be extremely dangerous. But
Oh, yeah.
this is a Derrick Rose that could be in a wheelchair in 5 years because his knees are that bad.
His knees are getting to Greg Oden's standard
Right.
at this point.
Oh, Greg Oden, that's a name. Oh man, but we're gonna have to move on real quick to the next part of the NBA. So the Bulls were 3-0. Well, now they're 3-1, and the Celtics. Kenny, I know last week you talked a lot about the Celtics. You love
I am
Brad
on the Boston
Stevens.
bandwagon
You
if
love
it's not
Brad
Miami.
Stevens and what he's doing. You love Jay Crowder. You love Isaiah Thomas. So putting up 107 points against the tough Bulls. Against the tough Bulls team who's starting off really well.
That's a
What do you
good
see
Bulls.
from what do you see from Boston?
It is. It's a good Bulls defense. Boston, like we mentioned last week, Austin. I think Brad Stevens is great at getting not one-dimensional players, but sensationalized role players like Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley, who would normally be like sixth men on really, really good teams, to get the most out of them and like squeeze as much talent and production as he can on a game by game basis. And like we mentioned last week at Butler with Gordon Hayward and Shelvin Mack, there were like superstars in college. No one really talked about them until the tournament, but they were putting up numbers. That's part of the reason why Shelvin Mack was a first round pick. I mean, by the Wizards, I believe. And it's just unbelievable what he's doing in Boston. If he had a superstar on that team, they might overtake the Cavs in the East.
Right.
They really can.
That's a guard-heavy team
Absolutely.
in Chicago, and Boston had a good matchup there. You have Olynyk underneath. You have Jerebko, and Jerebko can shoot outside as well. But that's a good matchup, and I think the Bulls have a decent shot this year with leadership from Wade. Butler is playing out of this world, but they need to put all the pieces together. You can't lose games like that when the matchup isn't quite what you want it to be.
Right. Kenny, you mentioned having a superstar. So when we're more than halfway through the NBA season and trades are going on, you can clearly establish who's going to be not just a top 8 team to make the playoffs, but a top 4 team to contend for the finals. When you establish teams like that and you establish teams who are out of it, who do you think could be a superstar that could get traded to the Celtics from a team that might not be into it?
It's tough to tell early on. We have to kind of let the season play out and see who's going to be at the bottom with superstars on their team. I don't. The Pelicans are not going to trade Anthony Davis. They need to build from him and start drafting well. Right. They're going to get a nice draft pick this season. They don't look very good.
Like you guys were saying, the Celtics are pretty deep in the guard position. But there was rumors at the beginning of the year that LaMarcus Aldridge might not finish out his stint in San Antonio, may be traded.
Okay.
So I think maybe LaMarcus Aldridge could be a target that could go to the Celtics.
Maybe. The Celtics have pieces to trade. They have a lot of draft picks. So let's talk about highway robbery from the Nets that they got. The Nets cheating to win a title with the big three and Boston with Pierce, Garnett, and Allen, so to speak. It was unbelievable. They have a protected lottery pick from the Brooklyn Nets this year, so they're basically going to get the number 3 or number 2 or 3 pick this year.
I was actually about to bring up the Nets just because they're we can kind of pencil them in. They're not that good a team. If they squeak out the 8th seed, good for them. But
no,
I don't think they will. And I do think that Brook Lopez is a solid, above average to very solid big man, depending on what kind of level he's producing at. And if you can kind of get another guy like that down low to work with the guards of the Celtics.
Absolutely. He's definitely a good trade candidate. Absolutely. I don't think the Boston's going to go anywhere near trading with the Nets again, but he would be a good fit in Boston, especially with that system Stevens runs. He can be kind of a low-post threat, kind of let the guards go more off-ball. But like you mentioned, Austin, I mean, Brook Lopez would be a good fit, but it's too early to tell who's going to fit where, who's going to finish where. I mean, the Pelicans could go on a 15-game winning streak. It's not likely, but we just don't know at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be realistic with the Nets. Let's face it, they're relying on Jeremy Lin to be their everyday point guard.
Yeah,
and
gross.
2 years ago, they were relying on Jarrett Jack to fill that same role. The Nets have been in a funk ever since Jason Kidd left.
Yeah.
So that's a team that's not going anywhere.
Tyshawn Taylor from Kansas had some time at point guard the last few years, too.
So they really just need to right the ship, maybe trade some of the older pieces away, get some draft picks, and build the way that Boston is.
Yeah. I think the Nets, no offense to them, I grew up watching New Jersey with the Kid, Carter, Kittles, Kenyon Martin days. Oh, yeah, I love those guys. But I just think they have a worse roster than the Sixers this year. I think they're going to be the worst team in the NBA this year.
Yeah. I do have a theory for the East. Well, actually, let me just touch on the West. The West has, in recent years, has had kind of the trend where the Warriors are obviously a juggernaut. The Spurs are always great. The Thunder have been great, but without Durant and Westbrook just kind of taking over, you just don't know. The Clippers are a good team. The West, you can kind of pick and choose. There's a few teams they can choose from. From the East, I think this year the Cavs are just going to run it. Like, as if that was a surprise, but I think the Indians blowing a 3-1 lead might piss LeBron off a little bit, and maybe he'll run with it. As if he wasn't going to already.
It's possible.
But do you think, is there anyone out there that can compete with the Cavs? If you were to play a best of 7-game series with the Cavs, is there anyone in the Eastern Conference that would win one game?
I think Toronto could steal a series from Cleveland. I think with Kyle Lowry in his prime, DeMar DeRozan entering his prime, and Jonas Valanciunas maybe, if he's not in his prime now, next year definitely it will be his prime season. Those are 3 underrated players that nobody really talks about much in the NBA just because they're in Toronto and they're not at the hub of the basketball world. But God, I mean, they looked a little overmatched in the conference finals last year against Cleveland, but they've really handled themselves against Miami, and especially during the regular season.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth on that one. But I definitely see the Cavs taking the Eastern Conference, but I would say the Raptors are definitely a close 2 right behind them. I mean, they don't have a Kyrie Irving, they don't have a LeBron James, but they have a DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry that are right behind in the categories, but just not enough to surpass the Cavs yet.
No.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Toronto's a good team, and if anybody from the East is going to beat the Cavs, it'll be Toronto.
Right.
But I don't see it happening. The Cavs are just too good. LeBron he's 32 years old, but I think LeBron is just now into his best years of basketball.
It's very
He's
possible.
playing good ball these past 2 years, looking more of a triple-double threat than he's ever been in his career.
Right. And if we flash back to the West, I know you touched on Westbrook for a little bit. This guy is putting up crazy numbers over the first couple weeks of the season.
And
he's averaging over 38 points a game, 12 rebounds.
It's
10
unbelievable.
assists.
I don't think this is going to keep up. Those stats are a little inflated because we were only like 4 or 5 games in.
Right.
But to me, he was the no-brainer for the number 1 pick in fan. Not LeBron. I would take Russell Westbrook number 1. He's going to get used every single game on almost every single possession.
Oh, got it. I gotta say something here.
Go for it.
So we're all communications majors here, and we all know a certain person who's in the sports department here who, we're not gonna say any names, but he's a pretty well known guy here at the College of Brockport, and I have class with him. I have a sports journalism class with him. He told me that he doesn't know who Russell Westbrook is.
Oh,
That's possible.
That's unfortunate.
This
to
person
say
can
the
tell
least.
me everything that goes on in Section 5 Rochester area high school soccer, and that's great. You know, that's what he writes about. But we're going over, we're talking about headlines, and we're going over ESPN headlines, and he's talking about assumed knowledge, and the headline of this one article was Westbrook with another triple-double. And he goes, you can't assume knowledge. And he uses himself as an example for not knowing who Westbrook is. And I had to stop the class. Jaden, you were there with me. I had to stop the class and go, wait, you're not going to brush past that like you didn't just say that. I heard what you said.
In his defense, he strictly follows, and when I say strictly follows, he knows everything there is to know about the NHL, the MLB. It's pretty much stuff he cares about. He said 10 to 15 years ago, he just quit on the NBA cold turkey. They just lost interest in him, and that he just doesn't keep up with it. It still baffles me that a man who loves sports that much hasn't heard of Russell Westbrook, but, I mean, it is what it is.
I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
I think that he's probably seen Russell Westbrook before, but
Just forget about him.
maybe just would not recognize him. Like last night, I saw LeBron at the game, and I thought to myself, how many Cleveland Indians would LeBron recognize if he walked past him on the street? Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Just because Andrew Miller is tall.
And Mike Napoli has a really huge beard.
Right.
And Lindor's spunky and very,
Hey,
excited.
there you go. That's 3.
Right.
Oh, man. But, Kenny, it's always a pleasure to have you on for the NBA. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Kenny.
We are going to transition over now to the NHL. And, guys, obviously being in West New York area, we get a whole lot, on MSG, we get a whole lot of Sabres, and we get a whole lot of New York City area stuff as well. But we are going to start with the Sabres. They won 3 straight. And they got a big game as Toronto comes to town with Austin Matthews and his 11 points, I believe.
10, I believe.
10?
I think he's at 10 or 11.
Well, he's,
something like
he's
that.
leading to leave some points. It's going to be a very even match. The Sabres are 4-3 and the Leafs are 3-4. So it's going to be an evenly matched game. Sabres are on a winning streak. Never seen this before in my lifetime. What's going on here?
The Sabres are putting it all together, and like we said in the past 2 editions of the podcast, Dan Bilesma is getting the most out of guys that normally don't produce at a high level, but are doing a very good job this year. Robin Lehner is settling in nicely, and they're just scoring when they need to, and you saw it last game in Minnesota. Johan Larsson from Brian Gianta. Nobody expects those guys to do it consistently, but if you can squeak out a good win like that, it's a confidence builder for a group like the Sabres.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said over and over, if the Sabres team wants to do good, their stars have gone down, so they need people like Gianta, Johan Larsson, Molson just to step up. And they have. Molson's leading the team in goals, tied with a few guys, but he's up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see this streak going. There's some uncharacteristic things that are occurring. Through 4 games, these past 4 games, the Sabres have only allowed 2 goals. That's not going to continue throughout the season. Leonard's playing great in goal, but you just can't keep up those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So a loss is going to come soon, but, hopefully they get a win over their rival Leafs tonight.
And the defense has been pretty poor, even though they've not allowed too many goals here, and it's going to get a little bit weaker now because Bogosian is out. Looks like a long-term injury, so you might see a lot more of Casey Nelson, which is not good for Buffalo, to say the least, because if he's playing with Franson, those are 2 guys that often look lost on the ice.
Yeah, to touch on Bogosian, he's got a sprained knee that he suffered against the Wild in the first period, so we'll have to keep touch on that and see how long he stays out.
Yeah, that's usually a 4 to 6 week injury, a sprain in your knee, especially when you're playing a sport like hockey when your legs are the most important part of your game. So we'll see with Bogosian, but the Sabres are hoping they can get him back as quick as possible.
Yeah, similar to Jack Eichel, Coach Bylsma said that Bogosian will be out for, quote, weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't have one of their, 3 or 4 top defensemen in there, which is hurting with a team that's so depleted top to bottom.
Right, but speaking of defensemen, you do have Ristolainen, who's, again, up there in the team in terms of ice time, as well as he's leading the team in assists as a defenseman. That's pretty awesome. You got O'Reilly, who's leading the team in points. He's doing well. He's being the guy that we all know he can be. I feel like sometimes when Eichel was there, O'Reilly was getting, in some cases, O'Reilly was getting kind of like undermined a little bit. But I think he is a star, and he has the potential to be even more so than what he is right now. He can just keep growing. He can keep getting better from here.
Yeah, he's young. People forget how young O'Reilly really is because the Sabres traded for him. I think he's 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy that's a bona fide number 1 center. And when Eichel comes back, you have that 1-2 punch. And it's going to be really exciting when he comes back with this team because they're doing well without those 2 guys, Kane and Eichel.
But they need to do more. I mean, they're only sitting at 4-3-2, I believe, which puts them 6th in the Atlantic Division. That's still not good enough to get you in the playoffs as things are going now. The Habs are still 9-0-1. Like, what is going on in Montreal?
Yeah, I think in order for the Sabres to be in a spot where they make the playoffs this season, while Eichel is out, you have to attempt to get at least 1 point per every game played. So if he's out for 30 games, you have to have 30 points at that point. And then for the last 52, you have to hope for around 60, 65, so you can be around 90, 95 points for the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's probably going to be a tall order, but it's exciting right now to see a 3-game win streak, to see a team that's kind of playing with a lot of energy, playing with a lot of fire. You got, like we talked about, Leonard's doing really well in the net, but probably won't continue if you're being realistic about that. But like I said, we do get a lot of New York City coverage as well, and the Rangers are 7-3. King Lundqvist in net, and he's doing amazing right now. And the Oilers are 7-2-1. The Oilers, who just a couple years ago had number 1 overall pick and got McDavid, and then all of a sudden that franchise is becoming a force. So that's going to be a huge game to look at. And what are you guys seeing from McDavid so far?
A lot. I'm pretty sure he's still leading the league in points, and with the stars that he has around him, it's showing. This is a team that's had potential for a long time, but hasn't showed in their record. And early into the season it is. We'll see if they can keep it going. But I definitely see this as a playoff team, and keep playing the way they are, they can go far.
Yeah, I think McDavid is the most impressive player in the league. We're going to count Matthews out of that discussion for now just because McDavid has been that good. Mm-hmm. He took a team that everybody was saying had way too many forwards, that they had drafted the same player for the last 5 years, which is true. But he took a team like that with almost no defense and an okay goaltender in Cam Talbot, and he's making them a playoff contender. So it's just a credit to how good McDavid really is.
Yeah, he draws a lot of attention when he has the puck on his stick, and he can do so much with it. He can weave through defenders like anyone. He can make plays for himself, and he draws so much attention that he can just find, like you say, he's got a good supporting cast, so he can find guys open when he's got the puck in their zone. And the Oilers are very, very, very good right now. If they can keep up what they're doing over the course of an 82-game season, absolutely. That not only are they a playoff contender, they're a conference championship contender, and they have that kind of power to do so.
If you guys just want to touch on Matthews again, I wanted to hear your opinion on this because I had been thinking about it the last couple of days. Do you think Toronto really appreciates what they have in Matthews? Because I saw a storyline published the other night in one of the Toronto news outlets. Now, mind you, are they
putting too much pressure on him, or what does this go?
We're 2 to 3 weeks into the season now. The headline of the story was, "Is Austin Matthews really that good? What's wrong with Austin Matthews?"
Well, he's not going to score 4 goals every game.
Exactly.
Toronto's a team that's rebuilding as of now, obviously. But yeah, that's headline that I don't really agree with. That's putting a lot of pressure on Matthews, who's performed very well on his first year. I mean, they're 3-4. He put up 4 goals in the first game and they lost. Like, what else do you want from the guy?
Right. Sorry, he's leading your team in points, and you're under 500. I don't know what to tell you.
And also, a guy that I feel like doesn't get talked about much is William Nylander, who's another really good rookie for that team. He had like 9 or 10 points this year, and he just got Rookie of the Month in the NHL over Austin Matthews.
Yeah, it just shows how close the Leafs seem to be. They're much farther away than that because you have a guy like Nylander and you have a guy like Matthews, but they're still not winning games because the rest of the team around them is a real issue, and goaltending there has been subpar to say the least.
We've heard so many stories, too, with the Toronto front office being kind of a dumpster fire. We've heard so many stories about the media outlets of Toronto just bashing players for no reason, and that's why so many players choose to leave. So it wouldn't surprise me that if this kind of pressure keeps up on guys like Nylander and Matthews, if in 4 or 5 years when they establish themselves and say, you know what, see ya.
Yeah, I don't want to play in Toronto if I'm Austin Matthews. I would rather be in a market like Buffalo or Detroit where they love their team no matter what. They're going to give you time to really settle in before they start to put a little bit of pressure on you, because you see it after a while with any team, but
even a market like Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh, they demand to win, but they also get that their players matter. They get that they need to make their players happy and make them comfortable so that they can build and develop and win.
Right, and a media circus like Toronto, combined with the fact that Mike Babcock is the head coach, adds even more pressure to the young guys on that team, and that's something that might stunt the growth of these guys a little bit if they feel too much pressure on their shoulders.
Yeah, and like I said about Pittsburgh, I'm going to move on to the next thing. And I really don't like talking about this guy because Sidney Crosby's caused a lot of pain for Buffalo Sabres fans, but he is an incredible player. He's one of the best in the game, and he is a storyline. So he's only played 4 games. Penguins are 10 games in. They're 7-2-1. He's played 4 of those games. He's already got 6 points in those 4 games, and he's 5th on the team, only playing in 4 games. So he's only getting better. He's fine after that concussion. The team's only going to get better. And I know we've said before in the past couple of weeks, like, maybe the Penguins aren't the Stanley Cup team we've seen before, but there's no reason to see why they can't be a conference championship contender.
Oh, yeah. Crosby's back, and we've immediately seen when Crosby's back, the Penguins are back. I mean, they weren't bad when Crosby wasn't there.
No, they still had like guys like Kessel, doing what he could do.
Kessel, Malkin, all those just flat-out stars. And they were around a 500 team when Crosby was out, and now Crosby's back, and he's doing Crosby things, and the Penguins are back.
Yeah. It's awesome to see in Pittsburgh that he's back, because if you went to Pittsburgh now, the amount of Crosby jerseys they have, you would think that Tupac just came out and said that he's not dead anymore with how Crosby is viewed in that city. He comes in, the fans are rejuvenated, the team is rejuvenated, and they really are excited to get things going. I think they could contend for a Stanley Cup if Crosby stays healthy the rest of the way.
And what's not to love about Sidney Crosby? He's the best player in the National Hockey League, and he's brought how many cups to Pittsburgh? 2 cups to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's just the Buffalo hockey version of what Brady is to the Bills. That's all.
Yeah,
that's the only thing you can really hate about the guy. He
hasn't tormented the Sabres as bad as Brady's tormented the Bills.
No, but he is a fantastic player. He's very good. He's kind of like the face of the NHL. He's Sid the Kid, and everyone loves him.
Absolutely is the face of the NHL.
So that's going to do it for NHL as we move on to football. Now, real quick before we go into the NFL, this is going to be a full all-around football segment as the first FBS rankings came out. I'm not going to go through the whole top 25, but I do have a few questions for you guys. Bama's number 1. That's obvious. Clemson's number 2 at 8-0. That's obvious. So what does Michigan have to do at 8-0 at number 3 to crack that top 2 list?
Well, they're in the top 4, and if you're an undefeated team, you're happy to be in the top 4 because that's all that matters. In college football, you just want a chance to play for that national championship. I always never really liked the aspect of only 2 teams in the national championship. I'm a guy that it's win or go home. If you're winning the Orange Bowl, what's that do for you? You're not winning the national championship. So it's nice having those 4 teams in there, and just if you got a shot to play for a national championship, you should be happy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for Michigan to get up to 1 or 2 just because Alabama basically is gifted the number 1 spot if they stay undefeated, and rightfully so. They've been good for a very long time, and they're good again this year. But if Clemson stays undefeated as well, they're going to stay at number 2. They're not moving anywhere. So Michigan just has to to roll with the punches and hope that they stay in the top 4.
Yeah, basically just not lose. And the only way Michigan can lose and stay in that conversation is if it's the same week that Clemson or Bama also draw a tough loss.
Right.
So they basically just have to keep pace with them.
And Michigan still has to play an Ohio State team this year, so
Mm-hmm.
they'll be lucky if they stay in the top 4.
Yeah, and brings me up to my next point. So A&M 7-1 at number 4. They're a good team. They're having a good year. Washington, even with a weaker team, not a weaker team, but like a weaker schedule, they're getting the praise that they deserve at number 5. With also 8-0. But now Ohio State is 7-1 at the sixth seed, and people are like, oh man, they lost to Penn State. They're not that good. Penn State's ranked 12th.
Yeah.
It's not like Penn State's unranked.
And when it comes to rankings, a lot of times they look at when you lost to the team. They lost to Penn State when they were unranked. And Penn State's kind of been a little underappreciated these past few years because they've been meaningless to the NCAA, not being able to play for national championships due to, the Joe Paterno, that situation. But now they're ranked 12th, Penn State, so that's you don't call any loss a quality loss, but, it's a good loss, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Let's be real here, though, with the College Football Playoff Committee. They like drama, and I think this first set of rankings might be a little bit of manufactured drama, slotting Texas A&M at 4. Yeah. I don't see Texas A&M staying there. They got absolutely destroyed by Alabama. They lost by 17 points earlier this year, and Washington's undefeated. So unless we see another situation like we saw 2 years ago, the first year of the College Football Playoff, where TCU was undefeated and wasn't placed into the playoff,
They got snubbed, yeah.
I think that Washington ultimately ends up in the top 4 if they can remain undefeated. I don't see Ohio State bumping them out just because they're a Big Ten team.
Yeah, and like you guys said, this is the first of many. We're gonna have rankings to talk about each week when we do this podcast for the remainder of the season, all the way through playoffs. And this also might be a little too early too, but I got the Heisman Watch up here on ESPN.com, and Lamar Jackson is the unanimous.
Enough said.
He's unanimous in a 50-point system. He's got 50 points, and I think that's pretty much it. He's showing no signs of slowing down, and Louisville is a great team, great quarterback. What else can he?
The only thing you can say is that they have lost games. So, how many losses does Louisville have? One loss.
They should have lost their last game.
Yeah. So that's the only thing you can put against Lamar Jackson. Other than that, he's been spectacular. I like Jabril Peppers from Michigan, really playing everywhere. He can play corner, receiver, kick returner. You could slide him in at linebacker. This guy is an all-around athlete. I think he translates the NFL very well.
Yeah, he'll be a nice hybrid linebacker, a guy that can really rush the pass and get a lot of sacks in here, but he also can drop back into coverage and get interceptions. So he'll be a really high praise in the NFL.
Yeah, and like I said, it's early, and that's going to be something we're going to have to look out for. But we're going to have to move on to the NFL now, and obviously the Bills Monday night, primetime in Seattle. This is just a must-win game. I'm still mad about them losing to the Dolphins, and quite frankly, I'm mad about also losing to the Ravens and Jets in the first 2 weeks, because those are games that they easily could have won as well. But you gotta stay above 500 if you want to compete in this league. And losing to Seattle, I know it's in Seattle and it's a tough game, but that's a game they have to at least compete and try to win.
Yeah, look, it's the NFL. Nobody's going to feel bad for you. They lost games that they shouldn't have lost. Miami, New York, Baltimore, whatever. You have to put that behind you, and you have to go into Seattle Monday night with a mindset that you're still very much alive in the playoff race, which they are. They're only 500. Granted, Kansas City is a game ahead, or 2 games ahead, actually, and Denver as well. But Alex Smith just went down, so you'll see Nick Foles for the Chiefs. So we'll see here with the Bills. But if they can steal a win in Seattle, and Seattle's offense has been stagnant the last few weeks, their defense is very good. If they can steal that win going into the bye week, the rest of the schedule is pretty winnable for the Bills.
Yeah, and I feel like I say this each week for the Bills. That's why it's what's so great about the NFL. Each week is so important, and they need this win. They need to go to 5-4. If you drop to 4-5 here, you put yourself in a situation where you can't really lose 2 more this year. No. If you go to 4-5 and lose 2 more, the best you can go is 9-7. You're not making the playoffs. So if they don't want their backs up against the wall, they really need to win this game here.
Yeah, they can only afford to lose 2 games the rest of the way, like you said, if they want any shot of getting in the playoffs, and you still might not make it based on tiebreakers because their AFC record is not good. I believe they have one one win against AFC opponents so far, but the good news is after Seattle, every opponent they play is in the AFC.
Yeah.
And it's going to be such a tough year getting into the wild card. I mean, just look at the AFC West. You got the Raiders and Broncos at 6-2. You got the Chiefs at 5-2. Those are all teams that are, I mean, obviously only one can win the division, so the other two are fighting for the wild card.
Right.
And you have so many other teams that are going to try and get into the wild card as well.
And even the Chargers in that division are still lurking there at 3-5.
It's the most talented 3-5 team I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. And to go back to this game and the importance of the Bills, I mean, they don't have a whole lot of weapons. McCoy is limited in practice. Gillislee is, to me, is fine. I think he's a good enough runner where if you got to put him out there, he can still get you 80 yards and a touchdown. I don't hate the way he plays at all. But with the depleted receivers, defense is lacking Aaron Williams, but there's still a very good defense against the Seattle offense that has trouble scoring. Do the Bills have a chance? Do the Bills have a solid shot if they can contain Russell Wilson?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that the Bills need to be good on offense. They don't have to be great, but you have to score points. Seattle's offense isn't going to keep up if you score a few points. But
No, I'm just asking you, Mitch, real quick. Define good, not great. Like 17 points, 14 points?
I think you have to score over 20 points.
Okay.
Because this is the Seattle offense that they're not that great, but we've seen it in the past with mobile quarterbacks. The Bills have trouble sometimes keeping up with them, containing them. Even though Wilson is playing at a subpar level, the running game isn't great. We'll see.
Can the Bills score over 20 points with Tyrod Taylor throwing for 103 yards a game or whatever his stat line usually is?
Not good. Tyrod averaging right around 140, 150 a game, one touchdown, no interceptions. That's a guy that just doesn't throw. He's a subpar quarterback with super good athleticism. He's a very good athlete, but...
And that's the thing, is that his athleticism also allows him to run over 55 yards a game with a touchdown.
Right, and I would venture to say, and this might be a shock to some people in Buffalo, but I would almost take Jay Cutler over Tyrod because he doesn't take care of the ball nearly as well as Tyrod, but I'll take interceptions and turnovers over 3 and outs because Cutler's at least throwing the ball downfield, completing some passes, scoring points.
As Bills fans, I think that's a pretty good question for you guys. What are the odds that both Rex Ryan and Tyrod Taylor are back in Buffalo next year together?
I think they're pretty good if the Bills finish 9-7 or better. I think the Pagulas are in love with Rex Ryan for whatever reason. I mean, he's a likable guy, and he went 8-8 last year, so if he can improve on that this year, I think there's a good shot. But Tyrod Taylor, I don't know if you can pay him $27 million, albeit it's a $16 million cap hit if they accept the option, but he's not a top quarterback in this league. He's probably bottom 10, maybe bottom 5, and if you're going to pay him starter money, you better be damn sure that he's going to be your franchise quarterback.
Yeah. I think they will be back next year, but like I said, if they finish 500 or worse, it's going to be a tough call with Rex Ryan, but I think he'll be back, but they're definitely going to look at the structure of Tyrod's contract and try to renegotiate it because you sign him to big money, you expect 500 or better, you expect 10-6 or better, really, when you looked at this team's schedule and when you looked at the pieces they had going into the season, but it's just not performing. There's some underperformance, there's some penalty issues, there's some discipline issues. Some of that falls on Rex Ryan, some of that falls on Tyrod overthrowing and underthrowing his targets, his lack of targets that he has to begin with. There's a lot of things that kind of went wrong this year. But I think Tyrod's contract will be restructured. But that's something for me and Mitch to worry about. Jaden, I mean, you only got to worry about the Raiders, and that brings us to our Game of the Week segment. Jaden, we all know who you're going to choose this week.
Yeah, and I don't think I try not to be biased here, but I really think it's the Game of the Week. It's Sunday Night Football. You got the Denver Broncos coming to Oakland, which I think I might rather go to the Mile High as a Raiders fan. This is a team that's 5-0 on the road and 1-2 at home. They don't play good at home. It might be because they play on the Oakland A's field, which is atrocious and hideous. But regardless, they're home and they need to have a big win against the Broncos. Both teams are 6-2. It's division rivals. It's the first time they're playing all year, and Oakland's at home. God, it's gonna be hard for me to predict this one, but.
Now, let me ask you a question. Now, Derek Carr is doing great. He's slinging the ball all over the place. He's racking up 300 yards a game. He's got great receivers in Cooper and Crabtree.
300 a game? Do you
Not
mean
300.
Do you mean 500 a game?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I'm
just-
talking over the season,
Yeah, over
guys.
the season.
Jeez,
He's-
come on.
He's a 300-yard a game type quarterback, but he really popped off with that franchise record.
Oh, absolutely. But with that being overtime, that kind of helps.
So what do you got? You going with your
Yeah.
Raiders, or you gonna pick the upset
My
pick
my
and
my,
take the
my
Broncos?
question to get to actually was, can he do that against Denver's defense?
That's a really good defense. It's the best defense in the league. Them or Minnesota. I'm gonna go 27-21 Denver.
Picking against
I'm
your
gonna pick
team. It's
against
a
my-
Cardinal sin. He's going for it anyway.
It's a little reverse psychology here, but
Okay.
I'm obviously gonna be pulling for the Raiders really hard, but I'm gonna go with the Broncos. I'm not gonna say that I think the Broncos are gonna win, but I'll predict them. That's hard for me to do, but
I'm gonna disagree there. I think the Raiders are gonna win this game
Good man.
because
Good man.
I think the Raiders defense has stepped up of late. They're playing much better than they had earlier in the season. And Trevor Siemian is not a good quarterback. They don't have C.J. Anderson anymore, and Demaryius Thomas has not looked like himself. Emmanuel Sanders is still a weapon.
C.J.
But
Anderson out.
Right. So if we have another instance where Oakland's offense can produce at a decent rate, they have a good shot at winning this game. It's going to be close, though. I don't see either team throwing up a ton of points. So I'm going to go 17-14 Oakland.
I'm gonna wait to predict the score in the winner, but I'm just gonna say this for now. Devontae Booker is not a bad running back.
No.
He's not. He can catch passes, he can block, he can run, he can do everything. Emmanuel Sanders, like you said, still a great weapon. Demaryius Thomas might not be himself, but you still got Siemian loves to find Sanders down the field. The X factor is Michael Crabtree.
Yeah.
Can Crabtree get open? Because with Keep Talib on Cooper, you could pretty much pencil Cooper out that game. But
Third top.
It's gonna be a good battle. Good
Third in
battle.
receiving yards in the NFL. The thing that
okay,
really
but Crabtree, if Crabtree can get open, if he can find ways to get open and draw attention, and also open up Cooper and the middle of the field for Carr and Latavius Murray to work with, that's gonna be the key for the Raiders to win. But I think the Broncos defense is gonna fight them off, and I think it's gonna be a 14-10 struggle.
and a guy that we'll see a lot of time on Michael Crabtree is T.J. Ward, one of the top guys in the secondary in Denver. He came out and said he was a lifetime 49ers fan. He came out and said, "I hate Oakland." He does not like Oakland. He also said that Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper are not elite receivers.
Oh,
Wow.
So I
it's-
could see it with Crabtree, and Richard Sherman thinks the same
Yeah.
way as we saw, but I think that's the most underrated receiving core in the NFL with Cooper, who's a bona fide number one guy. You're not going to find anybody else that's better than him, really. I mean, unless you're reaching for a Julio Jones or
Right.
something like that, but
There's nothing wrong with him as a number
like
one.
Crabtree is probably the best red zone target in the NFL, and then you have an underrated guy like Seth Roberts who scored the game-winning touchdown last week.
How
So
about that game, boys? That was
Yeah.
an awesome. That
That was a great game with a lot of poor tackling.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I'll take it though.
Yeah, and Mitch, let's move on to you. Other than the Sunday night game, Denver Oakland, what do you got?
I've got another NFC East matchup. We've got Giants, Eagles, two teams that are playing okay right now. Wentz is starting to play like himself again, and Eli Manning is starting to play like the Eli we all know and love or hate, throwing a lot of interceptions. He's got 8 touchdowns and 6 picks on the season. This is a big game for the NFC East standings. If you want to compete with Dallas, you have to win this game. I'm going to take Philly in this one fairly easily, 28-14.
Like we were saying last segment, NFC East football is back. How good was that game between the Cowboys and Eagles last week? Which I corrected incorrectly, but that's
But that was an amazing game. Overtime, I was honestly hoping for not a tie. Just no more ties, please. But it was a great game. Dak Prescott has showed up to play. I think he's going to earn the starting spot for the rest of the year. If they choose to go with Tony Romo, then I for one strongly disagree, but that's on them. That's their fault. I think the
Eagles.
I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles versus the Giants. Sorry, Eagles versus Giants. Carson Wentz needs to limit turnovers. Eli Manning also needs to limit turnovers. I think of the two, Carson Wentz has a better possibility of limiting his turnovers, and that's going to be the name of the game. I think the Eagles will come away with this one. I agree fairly easily. I'll say 28-21. But I say 28-21 is fairly easy because Eli Manning will just have a last-second touchdown and make it 28-21.
I'm going to go with the Giants on this one. I really like their defense. They've had those good pieces with Janoris Jenkins, Olivia Vernon. I think they're going to make a real tough day for Wentz. I think they only score like 10 points. And let's see what I can put together for a final on this one. I'm going to go Giants 24, Eagles 10. I don't think it's going to be very close. And I think this is where we're going to see the Eagles start to drop. And as I've said, that tough schedule they have in the rest of the year.
And as you hit on that tie, the last time there were 2 ties in the NFL, 1997, the Indians also lost the World Series in 7 games that year against the Marlins.
That's crazy. I was just going to note on that.
You can't script sports.
Yeah,
It all ties together.
history
It's just
repeats
great.
itself.
It's just so
a
great.
fact.
It's just so great. So to cap off this segment, we'll go to my play of the game, game of the week. I'm looking at the schedule. I'm thinking Steelers-Ravens is going to be a good one. AFC North battle. The AFC North is pretty even. Steelers are 4-3 and they're leading it. Ravens are 3-4 and they're in third. Browns, I don't think exist.
No.
So Steelers-Ravens. Steelers are coming off a bye week. They got Lev Bell is back off suspension for the past few weeks, and he's just been tearing it up. He's just been going nuts. They won't have Ben Roethlisberger, but I don't think it's gonna matter. He's coming back and he's working back, but I don't see him back this week. We'll see how he is at game time, but I think Landry Jones will be fine, and Lev Bell's just gonna take over, and we'll see what happens. As long as Landry Jones doesn't have to do too much with the passing game, and the defense can kind of hold Flacco and the Ravens at bay, I think the Steelers will come away with a 21-17 barn burner.
Yeah, they don't need Roethlisberger. They're going to beat the Ravens this week, no doubt about it. They have too many weapons. Brown and Bell are unstoppable. Pittsburgh easily 28-24.
Yeah, like you were saying, no Roethlisberger this week. He's saying how he still has pain in that injury he suffered a few weeks ago. But I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one. I just have a weird feeling that the Steelers are going to drop the ball. I see Kenny over there with the facial expressions. We got a Steelers fan over there?
No, big time.
Big time Steelers fan? Yeah, well, I think they're going to drop the ball with Landry Jones. And I don't think AB's going to have a big week because, he doesn't have Big Ben throwing to him.
Yeah, I'll just chime in on this game. Landry Jones can't throw the ball more than 25 times.
Yeah.
I don't trust him throwing more than 25, 30 times against the Ravens defense, which is still decent.
Yeah.
So you're going to do what Jaden did and go against your team?
No, I think the Steelers win if they can get Bell involved and throw a lot of screens to Antonio Brown. But I think they'll win 21-14.
Okay.
34-23 Ravens.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Talon Sports Talk podcast. We talked about a lot. There was so much going on this week, and we only look forward to what next week brings us. So until next time, I'm Austin Speaker.
I'm Mitch Courtney.
And I'm Jane Sarabla.
And I'm Kenny Stables.
All right, thanks for listening.